Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm really glad you're here with us today because we're diving into something really fundamental for mastering English. It's often overlooked, maybe even feels a bit basic, but it's absolutely crucial. We're talking about the power of repetition.
It's funny, isn't it? Repetition. It sounds so simple, maybe even a little boring. But just think for a second about how you learned your first language, your native tongue. You didn't exactly sit down with flashcards for mom or dad, did you? Or grammar charts.
Uh-huh. No, definitely not. It was more like osmosis,
No,
wasn't it?
exactly. Osmosis is a great word for it. You were just surrounded by it. Sounds, words, phrases just washing over you constantly. People talking to you, talking around you, repeating things without even thinking about it usually. Want milk? Look, doggy. Time for bed. Over and over and over.
In loads of different situations too, not just sitting at a desk.
Precisely. It was natural, subconscious mostly. Just constant exposure, constant reinforcement. And that steady stream of repetition, bit by bit, it built your entire language framework. And that's the core idea, the foundation that, well, many English learners kind of miss or maybe just underestimate.
It really hits home. And it points to a problem I think a lot of us, you included, perhaps, have
Yeah.
faced. You learn a new word, right? Maybe you write it down, look up the meaning,
Yeah.
feel quite pleased with yourself, and you sort of expect it to just click, to
Mhm.
be there forever, ready when you need it.
Oh, absolutely. We've all been there. You have this moment of clarity. Ah, that's what ephemeral means. And then maybe a day later, maybe even just an hour later, blank, gone, vanished into thin air.
Exactly. It's like trying to make a path in a really overgrown forest by just walking through it once. You might, I don't know, rustle some leaves, maybe leave a footprint, but come back tomorrow and you barely know anyone had been there. It's not a lasting trail, is it?
Not at all. It's a faint impression, easily swallowed up. But this deep dive, this is where we show you how to build that trail properly, how to walk it again and again, strategically, until it's a clear, well-worn path in your mind. Easy to find, easy to follow.
So our mission today is pretty clear. We're going to unpack repetition. We want to show you exactly how using it smartly, strategically, can make vocabulary stick, really stick, in your
Yeah.
long-term memory. So it's there when you need it, without that frantic mental search.
And it's not just about words. We're also looking at pronunciation. We'll give you some really practical techniques, things you can use right away, ways repetition can help you sound clearer, more natural, more confident when you speak.
Which is huge. And we have to tackle the big one, don't we?
Yeah.
The boredom factor.
Yeah.
How do you actually do this repetition thing without it feeling like, well, a total chore?
Right. Because if it's boring, let's be honest, you're just not going to do it consistently. So we'll explore ways to weave it into your daily life, make it engaging, maybe even fun.
Fun repetition. I like the sound of that. And finally, we'll wrap up with some solid daily exercises. Practical steps, turning this idea of repetition into a real habit. So by the end of this, you'll have the know-how, the tools, the understanding to make English truly stick. Vocabulary, pronunciation, the works. Building that lasting fluency and confidence. Sound good?
Sounds like a plan. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start with the fundamentals. The why. Why is repetition such a powerhouse for learning English? What's actually happening in our brains? We hear practice makes perfect, but what's the science?
It's actually fascinating when you look at the brain's mechanics. Think about it like this. Your brain is constantly bombarded with information, just tons of it, every second. If it tried to hold on to every single tiny detail, it would be completely overwhelmed.
Absolutely. Total information overload.
So it needs a filter, a way to decide what's important and what's just noise. And one of the key signals it uses for important is frequency. How often does it encounter something? If you see or hear a new word just once, your brain kind of goes, okay, noted. Probably not vital, though. And it stays in short-term memory.
Like that sticky note you mentioned earlier. Useful for a moment, then maybe tossed out.
Exactly. It's temporary storage. Very temporary, easily overwritten. But when you encounter that same word again, and then again, maybe used in a slightly different way, your brain starts to pay attention and thinks, this keeps popping up. Maybe this is important. Maybe I need this for something.
So frequency acts like a flag, signaling, hey, pay attention to this. Store this properly.
Precisely. That repetition signals significance. And that signal triggers a process. The brain starts the work of transferring that information from the shaky ground of short-term memory to the much more stable vaults of long-term memory. It actually starts building and strengthening the neural pathways connected to that word or phrase. It's a physical change.
That's incredible. It's not just an abstract idea. The brain is physically rewiring itself.
It is. It's called synaptic plasticity. The connections between your neurons, your brain cells, they literally get stronger, faster, more efficient with repeated use. Which brings us back to your forest path analogy. It's just perfect for
Right.
this.
Walk it once, barely a trace.
Barely a trace, a fragile connection, easily lost. Maybe you remember the word for 5 minutes, maybe an hour if you're lucky, but walk that same path every day for a week. Or, even better, maybe 5 or 10 times spaced out over a few days.
Then you really start to see it. The path becomes clear, obvious, it's worn in.
Exactly. The leaves are gone, the ground is packed down, it's an established route. That's your strong neural pathway. Each repetition deepens it, reinforces it, makes it easier to access. The word goes from being a whisper you have to strain to hear to being readily available right there when you need it.
So it's a difference between a fleeting memory and, well, permanent learning.
Pretty much. Strategic, repeated exposure versus a single glance. It's neuroscience, not magic. And this directly fights that forgetting curve we all experience. You know, how quickly we forget new stuff if we don't revisit it.
Oh yeah, the forgetting curve is brutal. Learn something Monday, by Friday, it's hazy at best.
Right. Repetition, especially strategic repetition, interrupts that curve. It keeps bringing the information back just as it's about to fade, reinforcing it again and again. But, and this is really important, it's not about just any old repetition.
Okay, so here's the nuance. It's not just chanting a word 50 times.
Definitely not. Mindless, rote repetition that can actually be counterproductive. Boring, tiring, you start to resent the word, there's a smarter way. The right kind of repetition. The secret sauce, if you like. Which leads us very nicely into one of the most powerful techniques for this, spaced repetition.
Spaced repetition. Okay, I've heard of this, often linked with apps and flashcards. So break it down for us. What exactly is spaced repetition, and why is it so effective, so brain-friendly?
Right, so spaced repetition takes that core idea. Repetition strengthens memory, but adds a crucial layer of timing. Instead of cramming, like repeating a word 20 times in 5 minutes, which feels productive, but the memory often fades fast. Spaced repetition involves reviewing information at increasing intervals.
Increasing intervals. So you wait longer between reviews over time. That sounds weirdly counterintuitive. Wouldn't you forget it if you wait longer?
But that's the genius of it. You review it at the point where you're just about to forget it. That moment of slight struggle. That little bit of mental effort needed to retrieve the word, that's what tells your brain this is important. That effort strengthens the memory trace significantly.
Okay, I think I'm getting it. It's like flexing a muscle, right? If a weight is too light, you don't build strength. If it's impossibly heavy, you can't even lift it. You need that sweet spot of challenging but achievable effort.
That's a perfect analogy. Exactly. Review too soon, it's too easy, no signal of importance. Wait too long, you've forgotten it completely and have to relearn it, which is inefficient. Spaced repetition aims for that sweet spot. It challenges your recall just enough to reinforce the memory pathway, basically saying, hey brain, remember this. It took a little effort, so it must be useful. Keep it.
So you're essentially optimizing the forgetting curve,
Yeah.
working with it, instead of just fighting against it blindly.
Precisely. You're strategically timing your reviews for maximum long-term retention with minimum wasted effort.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So practically speaking, how do people actually do this? You mentioned apps.
Yeah, technology has made this super accessible. Apps like Anki, Quizlet, Memrise, there are loads now. They use algorithms, basically smart software, to manage the spacing for you. You tell the app how well you remembered a word, easy, hard, didn't know it, and it automatically schedules the next review.
So it personalizes the intervals for each specific word based on your own memory.
Exactly. If ubiquitous is easy for you, you might not see it again for weeks. If serendipity keeps tripping you up, it'll show up again much sooner, maybe tomorrow or the day after. It's like having a little AI tutor managing your vocabulary practice. Very efficient.
That does sound handy. But what if you're not an app person? Or you just prefer pen and paper or something more tactile? Can you do spaced repetition manually?
Absolutely. You can definitely implement the core principles yourself. It takes a little more organization, but it's totally doable and very effective. You could use flashcards, maybe with the simple box system like the Lightner system, or even just a dedicated notebook.
Okay, could you walk us through a simple non-app schedule, like a daily blueprint someone could follow for a new word? Let's take resilience.
That's a good one. Resilience. Perfect. Okay, here's a possible manual schedule, focusing on active use, not just passive review. Day 1, you encounter resilience. First, understand its meaning, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness. Then, the crucial part, actively use it. Don't just write it down. Create a meaningful sentence, maybe connect to a personal experience or something you've read, like the community showed incredible resilience after the storm, or developing mental resilience is important for dealing with stress. Say it out loud. Maybe even find an image online that represents resilience to you and save it with the word.
So day one is about understanding an immediate active connection, making it personal somehow.
Exactly. Anchor it. Now, day 2. The goal is recall and variation. Try to remember the word and its meaning without looking first. That retrieval effort is key. Then, create a new different sentence. This forces you to think about its meaning and usage more flexibly. Maybe ask a question. What builds resilience in children? Or use it in a slightly different context. The company's financial resilience was tested during the downturn. Again, say it aloud. Maybe quickly explain the meaning to yourself in your own words.
Okay, so reinforcing the memory, but also broadening the understanding how it's used. What about day 5? The gap is getting bigger now.
Right, the interval is increasing. Day 5, this is where we push for more active, perhaps even spontaneous use. Challenge yourself. Today, I'm going to try and use resilience in a conversation, or maybe in an email or a text message. Look for a natural opportunity. Maybe you're talking about a book, a movie character, a news story, or even just describing someone's challenging week. He showed remarkable resilience throughout his recovery. Even if you just think the sentence in a relevant situation or quickly write it in a journal entry about your day, that active attempt to integrate it is powerful. It connects the word to real communication.
This is much more active than just looking at a flashcard again. It's about production.
Precisely. Production strengthens memory way more than just recognition. Now let's jump ahead. Day 10. The interval is longer still. Now we aim for deeper integration. Try using resilience in a more creative or complex way. Maybe write a short paragraph, a mini story, or even a poem involving the word. Despite setbacks, her spirit's resilience shone through, a beacon in the dark. Or perhaps try to explain the concept of resilience to someone else, or even just pretend to. Teaching or explaining forces really deep processing. This demonstrates a much higher level of mastery. You could even try finding synonyms or antonyms to deepen your understanding.
Wow, that's a really comprehensive progression from initial contact to creative integration.
And you can adapt this, of course. Maybe the intervals are day 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, or maybe you use different activities. The core principle is space out your reviews, increase the intervals, and always focus on active recall and meaningful use, not just passive looking.
It's so clear that this spaced, active approach is miles ahead of just cramming. You're not just memorizing. You're building a relationship with the word, weaving it into your actual language use.
You're building that strong, reliable neural path, making it part of your usable vocabulary.
Okay, fantastic. So we've got a solid strategy for vocabulary. Now let's talk pronunciation. Because knowing resilience is one thing, but saying it so people understand you easily and sounding, well, natural. That's another challenge altogether, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Pronunciation is multi-layered. It's not just individual sounds, though those are important. It's also rhythm, stress, intonation, the whole melody of the language. And yes, repetition is absolutely key here too. But again, it needs to be the right kind of repetition. Active, focused repetition.
And you mentioned a technique earlier. Listen and repeat, or mimicking.
Yes. Listen and repeat, or shadowing sometimes, is incredibly effective because it's so direct. You're literally trying to replicate the sounds you hear. But like spaced repetition, there's a way to do it that maximizes the benefit.
So step 1 is finding the right audio, you said. Authentic native speaker stuff.
Crucial first step. Ditch the robotic textbook recordings if you can. Find real English. Podcasts on topics you like, YouTube channels, interviews, scenes from movies or TV shows, even news reports, something engaging. The key is that it's natural, conversational speech, ideally with a speaker whose accent you find clear or maybe even want to emulate.
Okay, got my authentic audio clip. What's the actual loop? How do I practice the listening and repeating effectively?
Right, here's the micro-practice loop. Keep it short. Focus on just one short sentence or phrase at a time, maybe 3 to 7 words. Play that short phrase. I'm going to go to the store. Immediately pause it, right after they finish speaking. Then you repeat it out loud. And this is the critical part. You're not just saying the words, you are mimicking.
Mimicking everything, the speed, the tone.
Everything. The exact sounds, did they say gonna or going to? The rhythm, where were the stresses? I'm gonna go to the store.
Well,
It. The intonation, did their voice go up or down at the end? The linking, did words blend together smoothly, like go to the. You try to copy it all, like you're an actor trying to sound exactly like another actor.
And you mentioned doing this multiple times for the same phrase, not just once.
Yes, this is vital. Don't just say, I'm going to go to the store once and move on. Repeat that same short phrase 5 times, maybe even 10 times in a row. Each time, you're listening critically to yourself. Compare your attempt to the original audio in your head. Ask yourself, where did I stumble? Was my Ghana too sloppy? Was the rhythm right? You're actively fine-tuning your mouth position, your tongue, your breath. You're building muscle memory.
Muscle memory for speaking. I never really thought of it like that.
That's exactly what it is. Your mouth, tongue, and vocal cords are using muscles. They need training to produce unfamiliar sounds and patterns accurately and automatically. Think about tricky sounds. Maybe the sound in, through, or thought, or the difference between ship and sheep. Pick a short phrase with that sound. I think it's through there. Repeat it 10 times, really focusing on getting your tongue position just right for the... Record yourself, maybe, and compare.
Recording yourself. That sounds scary, but probably really useful.
It can be confronting, but it's incredibly valuable feedback. You often don't hear your own mistakes until you listen back objectively. So, that micro loop. Listen. Pause. Repeat. Focusing on mimicry. Repeat again, refining. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Then move to the next short phrase.
And you also stressed repeating full sentences, not just single words. Why is that so important?
Because English flows in sentences, not isolated words. The real rhythm and music of the language happen at the sentence level. Think about stress and intonation. In the sentence, are you coming to the party? Quote, the stress and rising intonation tell you it's a question and emphasize key information. If you only practice coming and party in isolation, you miss that whole sentence melody. Repeating full sentences helps you internalize the natural stress patterns, the linking between words, the intonation contours, all the stuff that makes speech sound fluid and understandable.
It goes back to that music analogy, doesn't it? You need to practice the whole tune, not just individual notes, to get the feel of the piece.
Precisely. Individual sounds are the notes, but the sentence is the melody, the rhythm section, the whole performance. You need to practice the performance. Shadowing is great for this too, trying to speak along with the native speaker in real time. It really forces you to keep up with the natural pace and rhythm.
Okay, so focused, repetitive mimicking of short, authentic sentences is the path to better pronunciation. Building that muscle memory.
It's a huge part of it, yes. Consistency is key, as always.
Right. Consistency. Which brings us back to the potential problem. Repetition can feel, well, repetitive, boring even. How do we keep this engaging? How do we make sure we actually do this stuff regularly without dreading it?
The million-dollar question. And it's a fair one. If it feels like pulling teeth, you'll avoid it. The key is creativity and integration. Finding ways to make repetition feel less like a drill and more like, well, playing with the language.
Playing with the language, I like that.
Oh, yeah.
So you mentioned acting earlier with movies and TV shows. Tell us more about that.
Yes, this is genuinely fun. Put on a movie or show you enjoy, in English, with English subtitles important, no native language subs. When a character says a line you like, or one that seems useful, or just has an interesting delivery, pause it. Then don't just repeat the words, become the actor. Say the line with their exact intonation, their emotion. Are they angry, sad, excited, sarcastic? Try to capture that feeling in your voice. Maybe even copy their facial expression or a gesture they made.
Huh. So if someone dramatically shouts, "Get out," you should really put some feeling into it.
Absolutely, lean into it. If they whisper conspiratorially, "I have a secret," then whisper it back with that same sense of intrigue. This makes it active, embodied. You're connecting the language to emotion, to context. It uses more of your brain than just rote repetition. Plus, it's just more fun. Focus on common phrases, greetings, expressions you might actually use. You're practicing pronunciation and learning natural conversational chunks.
That sounds like a brilliant way to practice. What about music? You mentioned making up songs or raps.
Yes. Music is a fantastic mnemonic device. Rhythm and rhyme massively boost memory. Got a list of irregular verbs bugging you. Turn them into a simple, silly song. Use a tune you already know, like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, Seesaw, Seen, Oh, Where Have You Been? Go, Went, Gone So Far, Driving in My Car. Something completely daft like that.
Uh-huh. It sounds ridiculous, but I bet it works. You'd remember that.
You absolutely would, because it's memorable, it's engaging, it doesn't feel like study. Or maybe you're struggling with prepositions. Make up a little chant or rap about things in your room. My keys are on the table, my bag is by the door, my coat is in the closet, my shoes are on the floor. The rhythm helps lodge it in your brain. It makes the abstract rules more concrete and playful.
Turning grammar into groove. I love it. Okay, what about just everyday life? How can we weave repetition into just our normal routines?
This is probably the most sustainable approach long term. It's about creating micro moments of practice throughout your day. We talked about ordering coffee using a new word like robust. Expand that idea. Describe things around you using new adjectives. Look at the sky. The clouds look rather ominous today. Feel the fabric of your shirt. This material feels quite smooth. Narrate your actions, even just silently in your head, using target vocabulary or grammar. Okay, now I need to retrieve the documents from the printer. I should probably proofread this email before sending.
So you become your own commentator using the language you want to practice.
Exactly. Even talking to your pet or your plants, like you said. Right, Fluffy, time for your nutritious dinner. It sounds silly, but it's active use. Make your grocery list an English practice session. Need some crunchy apples, ripe avocados, and a carton of milk. Comment on the weather, your commute, a podcast you're listening to. Find tiny excuses all day long to actively recall and use the English you're learning.
It's about making it a constant, low-level background activity, not just a dedicated study block.
Yes. Variety is key too. Use the word in different ways, different contexts. Don't just repeat the same sentence. Play with it. The goal is to make repetition less of a deliberate, formal practice and more of a natural, integrated part of how you engage with the world through English. Keep it light, keep it varied, keep it active.
Brilliant strategies. So repetition isn't just a learner's tool. You mentioned it's embedded in English-speaking cultures too, in speeches, even everyday chat.
Oh, absolutely. It's a fundamental part of rhetoric and communication in English. Skilled speakers use it very deliberately. Think about powerful speeches. Repetition is often used to emphasize key points, build emotion, and make the message memorable. It creates rhythm and impact.
The classic example has to be Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech, right?
Yeah.
That phrase is unforgettable because of the repetition.
Precisely. That is a masterclass. The repetition of "I have a dream" wasn't just for emphasis. It was structural, it built momentum, it created this powerful rhythmic cadence. Each time he repeated it, the idea gained more weight, more emotional force. It connected with the audience on a really deep level. It hammered home the central vision, making it impossible to ignore, impossible to forget. It wasn't just repetition, it was repetition with immense purpose and artistry.
It really shows how repetition can be so much more than just memorization. It can be about building conviction, creating unity.
Definitely. And while that's a very high-profile example, you see similar, albeit less dramatic, uses of repetition in everyday conversation constantly. Native speakers do it all the time without thinking.
How so? What kind of things do we repeat in normal chat?
Think about common filler phrases or discourse markers, things like "you know," or "you know what I mean." People sprinkle these into their speech constantly. Often it's not really asking if you know. It's a way to check engagement, to soften a statement, to create a sense of shared understanding, or just to pause for thought.
Right, like a little conversational nudge, "Are you still with me?" kind of thing.
Exactly. Or phrases like "at the end of the day." People use that repeatedly to signal they're getting to the main point, the bottom line, after discussing various things. We talked about options A, B, and C, but at the end of the day, we have to consider the budget.
It's like a signpost in the conversation. Conclusion coming up.
It is. Or think about simple reaction phrases like "that's so cool," or "oh wow," or "really bad." People repeat these constantly to show interest, enthusiasm, surprise. They're conversational glue. You also hear repetition used for clarification like "so you're saying," or for emphasis, "it was really, really cold."
So listening out for these repeated phrases and maybe even trying to use them ourselves
Yeah.
can help us sound more natural.
Absolutely. Incorporating some of these common natural repetitions into your own speaking makes you sound less like you're reciting from a textbook and more like you're actually participating in a real flowing conversation. It helps you pick up the rhythm, the cadence of everyday English. It's part of the music we talked about earlier. Pay attention to how often native speakers use these little repetitions. You'll start hearing them everywhere.
That's a great insight. Okay, this has been incredibly valuable. We've covered the why, the how, the pronunciation, making it fun, even the cultural aspect. But theory is one thing, action is another. So, it's time for our listener challenge.
Yes. Time to put this into practice immediately. We've got a simple 3-step challenge for you to start building those repetition habits right now.
Okay, step 1. As soon as you finish listening, pick 3 new English words. Maybe words you learned today or words you've struggled with recently. Your task. Say each of those 3 words out loud 5 times. Just say them, clearly. Today.
Step 1, just activate the sound. Step 2, tomorrow, take those same 3 words. Your mission is to use each one in a different, unique sentence. Make up the sentences yourself. Write them down, say them aloud. Focus on using the word meaningfully in a new context. Active recall and application.
And step 3. Sometime within the next week, find a way to use each of those 3 words in a real conversation. Talk to a friend, a language partner, a colleague. Order food, ask for help, whatever it takes. Use the words in real communication. That's the ultimate test.
3 simple steps. Say it. Use it in a sentence. Use it in conversation. It gets the ball rolling. And please, share your experiences. We'd love to hear from you. What's a word or phrase that took you ages, lots of repetition, before it finally clicked? We all have those words, don't we? Share yours in the comments or wherever you interact with us. Let's learn from each other.
Definitely. I'm really curious to hear those stories. And looking ahead, our next deep dive is going to be super practical, too. We're tackling the world of food. How to order food, eat out, understand menus, talk to servers, all that good stuff in English. Should be a tasty one.
Looking forward to that. But just before we wrap up on repetition, one final thought to leave you with. Think about repetition not just as memorizing facts, but as building intuition. When you repeat something enough, a word, a skill, a pattern of thought, it stops being a conscious effort. It becomes instinctive, like walking or riding a bike or typing. You don't think about the individual steps anymore, do you?
No, it just happens. Automatic.
Exactly. It becomes part of your intuitive skill set. So the question is, how can you apply that principle of building intuition through repetition to other areas of your life, beyond language? Maybe mastering a musical instrument, learning a new software, developing a healthy habit, even changing a way you react to certain situations. How can you make the desired action instinctive through smart repetition?
That's deep, turning conscious effort into unconscious competence through repetition. Lots to think about there. Until next time, keep talking, keep practicing, keep repeating smartly, and truly enjoy the journey of mastering English. Thanks for diving deep with us.